to the Breakfast Leadership Show, where we interview global thought leaders on business, leadership, and life. Here's your host, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Philip Cantrell online. Philip, how are you today?
I'm great, Michael. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to people.
Oh, I do too. I consider myself very fortunate to be able to get to do what I do and get to meet amazing human beings like yourself. So why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Well, that's a long story because I'm old. I have founded or controlled 10 separate businesses in 2 different industries. And if you want to put the success rate on that in sporting team terms, my record is 4-4-2. I have 4 wins, 4 losses, and 2 ties, which I guess in business are losses also. But 19 years in commercial printing, which Nashville, Tennessee, where I am, is a printing publishing hub, or always has been for a long time. And then the last 20 some odd years in real estate. So real estate brokerage. Currently, I am the founder, I guess you could say, semi-retired CEO of Benchmark Realty, which is the largest real estate brokerage in Tennessee now. So that's my track record.
There you go. And, to speak to the real estate side of things, I know Nashville and Tennessee, quite frankly, but Nashville in particular, and, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, has seen some absolutely amazing growth over the last few years. And I see it in other areas too. I travel around the country and, I'll go, and I've been to Nashville a few times, and, every time I go, but I don't remember that being there. And, I was in Atlanta about a year ago and, went to a Braves game, and I was in the area where I'm like, and I remember that area because I had family that used to live just outside of Atlanta many, many years ago. And I remember the area for some reason, and there was nothing there. And now everything is there. But we're seeing that, and, I'm thrilled for it because, the resources, not only from just, the part of the country where it's at, but the people, giving opportunities for the people that have, lived there their entire lives. And, for people that relocate, it's like you get to enjoy, this, I don't want to call it a hidden secret, but for a lot of people, like, I know Nashville, I've heard of it, but, they've never been. And when they go, they're like, oh my, it's like, I want to be there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the historic theme for Nashville, everybody thinks, is we're just a bunch country music, a bunch of huckleberries. And in a certain level, we are a bunch of huckleberries, but I grew up here, and I am 4th or 5th generation as far back as we could track. And beyond that, they didn't read and write too well, so we're not real sure. We think they traveled over from North Carolina. But it is a different town now than the one I grew up in. And it's, that's how evolution works, right? Is the system gets better as more things are added to it. And I think it's done okay. There are some areas they could improve upon, but every place you go, you could say that about, right? So, but for me, it's home and it's comfortable. And I live in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 15 miles south of Nashville. And we're full up. So don't anybody come to Franklin anymore, okay?
Yeah, the traffic is getting old really quick. It's
the infrastructure, they did not keep up with the infrastructure, that's for sure.
Most areas I find that have rapid growth, unfortunately, they forget, oh, wow, people may actually use a car to get to and from. It's like, we just see it all the time. And it boggles my mind. It's like, why can't we make that like step 1 on any development plan? Well, because then they won't develop it, because adding new roads and expanding roads can be really problematic because there's things already there. So I get it. So, obviously, and you kind of alluded to this a moment ago, and I know it's, the subject of your book and a lot of the work that you've done is, you said, there's been some things they've done well, and there's been things that they could have done better. And I think that's a important leadership lesson for all of us, is we do make mistakes, and there are some that might be construed bigger than others. And again, that a lot of that ties into, our emotions attached to the situation where we may think, oh, this is a humongous deal. And other people go, that's not that big of a deal. Don't why you beating yourself up over it. So, and I know that's, one of the premises of your book and the work that you do about, failure is not an ultimate failure. It's a misstep, or you went in there and you did something that didn't work out like you hoped it would. And, what do you do with that? And for some people, unfortunately, they let that devastate them, where, using a sports analogy, and I mentioned this at a board meeting and when I worked in healthcare years ago, when I had hired a nurse that quite frankly just wasn't a good fit for us, and we had to use an old Jack Welch term, de-hire her, and I remember telling the board about it, and I said, that's like, I've been very fortunate, since I've been here, that I've been able to hire a lot of people, but that were amazing, and this one just wasn't the right fit. But then, one of the board members said, yeah, Ted Williams got out, 6 times out of 10, and he's revered as probably one of the best baseball hitters of all time. So you're not going to get them all,
right?
But you're not going to get any if you're not in the game. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the process of it.
You're exactly right. I mean, number one, you have to success lies in mastering the mundane, being comfortable with the boring incremental improvements that you make on a daily basis. Because over time, and I've lived long enough now to realize this fully, over time you look back and say, I really didn't realize that was much of a tweak when I was doing it. But now that I see the long-term results and the compounding effect of the incremental improvements as you go along, that's where true growth and where true success lies. And, failure is something that happens to all of us. We're humans, right? Every year the grass fails because it gets cold outside, right? So, failure is one of those things that is going to happen. You might as well embrace that it's going to happen. The trick is how you react to it. You can let it debilitate you, or you can learn from it. And that is 100% a choice in your head. And that's something I have learned over and over again. When it strikes, and it will strike, it's how you react to it where the success lies. And then the growth from that then happens in incremental improvements. When I was in the military, and I spent 8 years in the military, there was a favorite saying in training about, embrace the suck, embrace the hard things, gather them in, look for the hard things to do, because that's where the growth happens. Nothing happens when everything is peaceful. Nothing happens when everything is calm. You may feel great about the world at the moment, but you're not growing. Penicillin, for example, was invented during times of crisis. Huge medical improvements are made during wartime. Incrementally more medical improvements are made during wartime than they are during peacetime. Yes, that's a crisis, and it stinks that we have to have crises like that often to grow, but it is a fact of life. You've got to embrace that. You got to look for it. Something I have lived by a long time.
Yeah, I tell people, don't spend too much time at Comfort Avenue. You won't grow. And you might, but it'd be your waistline, and you don't necessarily want that, because you need to generate revenue, because you have to buy slacks or clothes that are a little bit larger in size because you haven't been active. You haven't been doing things. You have to get in the ring. Are you going to get beat up? Figuratively speaking, yes. But that's the whole idea. All the analogies. It's like a diamond was a rock before. And,
well, I don't know if you've ever read Teddy Roosevelt's speech about the man in the arena. That's one that I have on my wall, and it is absolutely true. It's not the person that makes observations from the sideline that wins. It's the man in the arena, the one who's actually slugging it out, the gladiator who is fighting it every day, that actually wins and excels and becomes a stronger person for it. So you're 100% right.
It reminds me of something I actually saw yesterday outside of my condo complex. There was vehicle that was parked outside, and looks like they had just recently launched, a cleaning business, and they used different colors of electrician's tape to basically write down the name of their cleaning company and the phone number on their back window. Now, I know some people looked at it, and I heard a couple people snickering at it. And my first reaction to seeing that, again, being an entrepreneur myself and launch businesses and doing everything, is I wanted to go up to those people, but I didn't because I thought, well, let's not. And this world's already combustible. Let's not add any additional dynamite to the mix,
especially in your area. Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, let's not do that. But I wanted to go up to that person and say, I ask him, why are you laughing at this? Well, look how silly that is. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, tell me about your business that you launched. And 99.9% of the time, my hunch is they don't have a business. They've never launched one.
Right.
They work for somebody. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to poke fun at somebody that's trying to launch something on their own instead of encouraging them, then, that's one of those things where, I ask people, maybe take a look in the mirror. It's the same thing. And I'll use LinkedIn as an example. I have a interesting relationship with that platform, to say the least. But, we see it all the time. Someone says, yeah, I'm starting, my new role is vice president of da-da-da-da-da with this company. And there's, all the generic thumbs up and comments. Congratulations, you're going to crush it. You see somebody say, I just launched my business and it'll get 2 likes. And this country was built on entrepreneurs. And
you're absolutely right. But, we're taught from the time we're this big to stand in line and stay in line and keep our mouth shut. I mean, the entire education system in this country preaches that and teaches that that uniformity or conformity is where rewards lie. And I would contend that actually getting outside the comfort zone, getting outside your box is where the rewards truly are. You'll receive accolades from those who are also in the comfort zone, as long as you stay in the comfort zone. But the moment you step outside of that comfort zone, and it's kind of interesting. I use this analogy in the book about chickens. And of course, I'm from Tennessee. Okay. So everybody here has chickens. Not really, but anyway, that's what people think. If you've ever been around a flock of chickens, they're amazing critters, and they're not really animals, they're critters, okay, because they're also food. But if one of them gets a flaw, gets an injury, then the others will literally turn on it and peck him to death. They will kill that chicken simply because he or she is different than the rest of the flock. Humans are exactly the same way. As soon as somebody steps outside the designed box of where others' opinions say you should stay, you become a target for others. And then you get what I call the attack of the naysayers. That will happen every time you do something different. It's amazing. It really is amazing to watch. You can do something different. We can launch a new program in our business. You can launch a new program in your business within moments. Here it comes, set your clock. Here it comes, boom, there's the first attack. Boom, there's another attack. And I like that, equate that to success, because when an attack happens, that's when you know that you got their attention. And when the attacks increase, that's when you know you've got them on the ropes. Say that you're under my skin without telling you that you're under my skin. It's the attack of the naysayers that happens every time. And just know that it's going to happen. Just embrace it. Know it's going to happen. And as soon as it happens, use it as an incremental accolade for, hey, I'm getting to them now. And that's where the success lies. Just keep pressing and keep pressing and keep pressing. Fundamentally about all success, about all business enterprises, it has to do with who are you serving? If you are not serving others in whatever you're doing, then you're wasting your time. People spend their entire life chasing money when they should be chasing service to others, and understanding that money is nothing but the scoreboard of the quantity of measure of your service to other people. If you want more money, focus on more service. Earl Nightingale said it, and I'm sure you know who Earl Nightingale is. A lot of people don't. And okay, well, Napoleon Hill, right? Okay, so Earl Nightingale was a disciple of Napoleon Hill, and he kind of took his proponents and pushed them out further. But you can have everything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. That was a famous Earl Nightingale phrase and theme of a lot of the training programs he put in place. And it is absolutely true, because it's so fundamental to the core of who we are as human beings. And just folks don't understand that because they've never been taught that. They've never seen that exhibited for them. They've never seen it modeled, and they just kind of doing the best they can with what they have, which is awesome. I get that. But at some point in time, we have to reach outside the little world in which we live, knowing we're going to get smacked by the naysayers, reach outside the little world where we live and strive to do better. Otherwise, what happens? Society doesn't improve. And that's the number one problem we have today. It's all about mental mindset. All right. I can go to preaching real fast on this stuff.
No, you're preaching to the choir. It's all good. Yeah, it's all about service. And I love how, you quoted Nightingale and all the work that he did, starting off in just a little Chicago studio and, getting on the radio and doing some things. And it's in quoting the late Jim Rohn too. The stuff that Nightingale and Napoleon Hill and Rohn and Proctor and Brian Tracy, all those guys, it's really easy to do. But unfortunately, it's also easy not to do. And I think a lot of people just choose I don't want to make a stink. I don't want to get, yeah, it is. It's hard to stick your head up above because you're afraid you're going to get shot. And guess what?
It's physically hard, number one, and it's going to be emotionally hard because you're going to get attacked because you suddenly became different from the crowd.
Right.
And, and there's nothing wrong with remaining in the crowd. I don't want anybody to mistake what I'm saying here. It's fine if you want to go along, get along, Charlie, but you're not going to grow there. You're not going to grow as a go along, get along, Charlie.
Yeah, you have to continue to put yourself in the arena, in the ring, like President Roosevelt told us a long time ago. So while we have a bit of time left, let's talk about the book, and I always ask authors this question, what in the world would motivate you to give up so much of your life to write a book? Because it is a time consuming endeavor to
2 years.
Yep. Oh yeah. You think about that, you go, it's only just 2 years. But if you break it down from a percentage of your life aspect kind of thing, you're like, that's a pretty big allocation of time. So you walk us through, what motivated you to write the book and how did it feel the first time when you've held a physical copy of it and going, wow, this is something else?
Well, it's something that I had contemplated for a very long time. I actually began the process in my head in 2018. And I wrote probably the introduction and the first couple of chapters, and then life and family and businesses got in the way, so I set it aside. And then finally, I was talking, every conversation I would have with somebody talking about my story of where I've done, what I've done in business and what I haven't done in business would end up with, man, you need to write a book. So finally, I officially engaged a publisher and an editor, and confessionally, I hired a ghostwriter who would interview me and then transcribe that, and then I would edit that. So it's a joint team effort, number one. So understanding that. But so what's the motivation behind it? The motivation behind it is that, look at my gray hair. Okay, I'm not going to be here all that much longer. I've got a lot more days behind me than I have in front of me. So there's a legacy aspect, and the legacy aspect for me is not driven by ego. Michael, I love you, but whether or not you like me is not going to affect my happiness. Okay. It's that's how my brain works. What I am concerned about is that if somebody like me who has 40 plus years of business experience goes away, then all of that experience and all of that knowledge goes with me wherever I go. Right. And so what have I done for society then? What have I done? I could build a monument over here at a university. I could have a nice legacy financially that I hand down to my kids. But what have I really done to help society as a whole? And I think that we at this level have an obligation to share our knowledge with generations that come behind us so that they can then build on that foundation and be better, stronger, faster than we were, because we had to go figure all that stuff out. So that's the mission behind it, is essentially to share the base of knowledge to create a foundation for future generations that they could build their businesses upon and not encounter the same hits that I did, the same scar tissue that I have, that I had to go create. Because, my grandparents didn't read, or my great-grandparents didn't read or write. My grandparents barely read and write. I think my grandmother graduated from maybe the 6th grade. My father was a 10th grade dropout. My brother and I are the first two in our entire lineage to graduate from college. He's the PhD in geology, and I'm the business guy. All that is to say that I think we could have achieved what we achieved 2 generations ago if somebody had written this stuff down. So essentially, that's it. That's the mission. That's the goal. But you're right. It's a 2-year journey when you embark on something like this. And financial investment, I will never make money on this book. I don't care. I don't care how many people buy the book. I'll never make enough money to what I have invested in it in time and energy and literally money. So but we're trying to help others. And a lot of folks who have built a successful business and sold a successful business, the tendency is to just take the money and go to the farm. And that is a strong pull. I'm not going to lie to you, but I think that we have a moral obligation to help those that come behind us. And I think, the generation that I am finding is most receptive to what I say is the millennials. Gen X hasn't figured out what they don't know yet. The millennials are suddenly hitting their 40s and realizing, crap, nobody's teaching me this stuff. I need some help. And man, they are reaching out to me like crazy, and it's awesome to sit here to a 40-year-old and say, I was right in your shoes. I know exactly what you've been through. Here's what I did. Hope it helps you. That's just it's an out-of-body experience for me, literally.
It's a gift to be able to do that, to
Absolutely.
help people.
Absolutely.
And sometimes when people ask me my opinion of something, I will give them, okay, here's how I see this based on my experience. And it's, for me, I'm just responding to their inquiry, and I don't put much into it. But, time and time again, I say, when you told me this, that really helped me get through that. And I really appreciate that. And
that a lot. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you just you sit back in your chair and you go, okay, this feeling I'm feeling right now of just complete appreciation and love, quite frankly, from that person that I helped them, the ripple effect of that is immeasurable. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that more? And a lot of it has to do with just being present, taking care of yourself, both mentally, physically, spiritually, every way possible. So when those opportunities come up, and they happen all the time, when they come up, you're fully present to be able to share things that come up.
They happen all the time if we are alert to see them.
Right.
And that is key. A lot of people get so involved in their own little microcosm, in their own little world. They're walking with their eyes on their feet instead of their eyes on the horizon. And you have to walk with your eyes on the horizon, because it's like, well, you're walking through life and you need to create this ripple effect all around you to help other people. And frankly, Michael, I think that's why God put us on this earth. He didn't put us here to be selfish. He put us here to help and to love others. And that's a big part of the motivation behind this book.
Yeah, that's really important. I highly encourage everyone to pick up a copy. So love this conversation, Philip. Where can people find out more about you, the book, and everything else you're doing?
Well, probably the easiest place to go is my website, and that's philipcantrell.com. The book is available in all formats on Amazon, but you can also go through my website to get there, and you'll learn a little bit of my story on the website.
Definitely make sure to have all that in the show notes. So, Philip, enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for being you. The world needs more people like you. So, loved our chat today. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate being
it's
here.
Michael. Are you a founder, solopreneur, or small business owner drowning in decisions, stress, and sleepless nights? I get it. Entrepreneurial overwhelm is real. From income instability to creative burnout and the isolation no one talks about, it's more than just hustle fatigue. That's why I created Entrepreneurial Overwhelm, a book and a community to help you breathe again. Go to entrepreneurialhelp.com to grab your copy and join a like-minded tribe that gets it. That's entrepreneurialhelp.com. You don't have to build a...
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show, part of the Breakfast Leadership Network. Visit breakfastleadership.com for tips on empowering your business and your life.